Julia, and this is Julia at Home. In this video, I am talking about the resources we used to study Europe in our Around the World Preschool Geography study. So here is the passport. The countries we have gone through are the United Kingdom and Ireland, France, Denmark, and Russia. So we started with a study of Great Britain, and so this is a walk in London. I have another one in this series coming up that I will show you. These, I have to be honest, like I can see why some people would like them, and the idea is really good. It honestly was a little long to me, and like it didn't hold my interest as much as other series. I mean, I really want to like it because it goes through London and the sights and talks about all the things, but it just, yeah, I don't know. It didn't hold my interest. It's not as much of a story, and it's not rhyming like the barefoot book we up and down the Andes you can see in the South America video, and it's long, I think, was part of it. And of course my daughter wants me to read all of the captions. I mean, it's a well-made book. The pictures are nice. So, I mean, this might work better for an older kid. I don't know if I would say this is like a preschooler level. Maybe a kid who's really interested in London or whatever. Maybe if you're going there, this would be even better to like kind of give you an introduction. But for me, I mean, we read it. It wasn't my favorite. This, on the other hand, there's a whole series, a Cady series. Most of them are with artwork. We actually read her the Van Gogh Cady book, where she the stars and Starry Starry Night escape, and she has to try to track them down through different Van Gogh paintings. So the Cady books are really well done. And she has an adventure with Nessie the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland. And this is one I bought. My library has a couple Cady books, so they didn't have this one, and I thought it would be worth buying, and I was right. This one I recommend. It is, I mean, fantasy-based, all of the Cady books, though. So for my homeschooling friends that are more strictly Montessori, this is not going to work for you for the primary ages. It's pretty fantasy, but we do lots of fantasy, so we enjoyed this one. And then this is an interesting one. In the Belly of an Ox. It's two brothers in England, and they were nature photographers. You can see some of their photographs back here, but they actually hid in a hollow ox to take photos. They had like different ways of capturing their photos so that they could, and this one there's a camera and a sheep. It's really a creative story, and honestly it probably has more to do with like nature journaling, observing and loving nature and animals than England itself, but it does take place in England, and so you get a feel for the landscape there. They're in Yorkshire and London. So we liked this one a lot. This was a fun addition. So after doing our introduction to London and Scotland, later in the week, we did a poetry tea that was Irish, Scottish, Celtic themed. And this was fun. So this is the Wee Scott book. There's actually also a book, but the benefit of the CD is that the people reading the poems and the songs have authentic Scottish accents, which I do not. And they're just much better to listen to in the accent. So there's some like Robert Burns poetry on here. I don't know if you can read that at all. It's a compilation of Scottish lullabies and folk tales. And I think you could get the book as well. I might look into getting the book to have on the side as well in the future, but I enjoyed the CD. And in this one, oh, I think I forgot to mark the page we were on. I apologize, but this is the Usborne Illustrated Fables of the World, and we read The Children of Lear. just back here. It's a little Ireland tab, which is a classic Irish legend about, it's part of the stories that tell the settling of Ireland and the adventures of the gods. So it's a popular story. Good to know if you're traveling to Ireland or learning about it. And then I found this book at my library, which I quite like. It's called A Pot of Gold, and it's a treasury of Irish stories, poetry, folklore, and of course, Blarney. So it's got some beautiful illustrations. There's kind of different themes. And there's some classic poetry, some fun short stories. So we kind of just went through and chose ones that I wanted to read and they wanted to read. They just chose based on the pictures. This is a fantastic book. Super fun. Again, the illustrations are gorgeous. Gorgeous. And speaking of Irish soda bread, while we were doing this, or before we did this, I actually made some Irish soda bread. I did not use this recipe. I found a recipe on Pinterest. But I made Irish soda bread that we had while we were doing our poetry tea with some butter, and it was delicious. And I also wanted to show you, these are from the Usborne's Celtic Patterns to Color book. So I copied a couple, the same ones for each child. There's all different kinds in there. I went with the Celtic patterns and crosses. I thought those were really cool. She didn't really color much of them, but my son did more. But he's 2, so he just kind of scribbles over the whole thing. But these are really, these books are really cool because they also give you information along with the pictures. It's not just pictures. So these are from the Usborne Celtic Patterns to Color book. So after Great Britain, we learned about France. This is Adele and Simon. It's by Barbara McClintock. These books are really cute. So Simon, there's their brother and sister, and they're traveling around Paris. And Simon loses an item or accessory, like his hat, his glove, in each place. So it's a tour of Paris while Simon's losing things, and it's almost like a Where's Waldo, because you can try to find things. I don't even know if I could. Some of them are kind of difficult. So he lost his drawing, and I have no idea where it is in this one. They're kind of hard to find sometimes, but it's fun. And again, I like the pictures. This is by Barbara McClintock. She does some great illustrations. There's some books where she's just the illustrator for, I believe. Adele and Simon. This is A Walk in Paris. This is just like A Walk in London that I showed before. Again, they're not my favorite, but if you are, going to Paris, or if you have a kid that's maybe a little older, student that's older. Oh, this one goes this way. That's the Eiffel Tower. It just didn't hold my interest that well. My daughter sat through it. And it does have nice pictures. So again, it's not my favorite, but you might enjoy it. So, if your library has it, there's no harm in checking it out. A Walk in Paris. That is sideways. This is a really cute one. This is The Cat Who Walked Across France. The picture style is a little bit different, but he starts at the sea, so he's actually going across the different landscapes in France. So it's not, this one expands beyond just Paris. And it's about a cat. So, can't go wrong with animals, right? So that is The Cat Who Walked Across France. So next we moved on to Denmark. This is The Boy Who Held Back the Sea. This is a really famous story about a boy who holds back, the dike starts to leak. And he holds back the hole in the dike. And it's Thomas Locker, so the pictures are gorgeous, as with all of his books. And this is a rather famous story in Denmark. I knew the basics of the story. He's much more mischievous, and I don't know if it's the story in general or this telling of it. But it's almost like a Boy Who Cried Wolf situation. So, yeah, that is, again, The Boy Who Held Back the Sea by Thomas Locker. Beautiful illustrations. It's a good story for Denmark. Okay, the last European country that we looked at was Russia. And my sister actually, prior to studying this the year before, was it last year? Yeah, anyway, she spent a semester in Russia in college. And so we were able to talk to her as well. And this is The Littlest Matryoshka. And I almost always say that word wrong. So apologize for that. My sister actually brought her back a Matryoshka. And I didn't grab it. It's in her room. But it's a beautiful hand-painted from Russia. And this book is really nice. It's a used copy, so excuse that. So it's about, they come in sets. From the big sister down to the little sister, there are 6 sisters. And they get to America. And the littlest sister gets lost in the snow. But there's a little girl who has the other ones. She goes on a journey. And she eventually does make it back to her sisters at the end with this little girl. And it's a sweet story. I like that one a lot. Littlest Matryoshka. This is Eloise in Moscow. This one, what I liked about this one, it's a little long. A lot of the Eloise books are long. And so I did not read this to them. But my daughter listened to it. There's a CD in the back with Bernadette Peters, whom I love, narrating it. So we didn't do this during school time. This was like an after school activity when I just kind of put it out, and she requested it. So she listened to that, and she was able to look at the book while listening to the CD, and that is cool. Rechenka's Eggs. So this is actually kind of an Easter story, and we read it, we read it at Easter as well. I try to get it from the library if I can. It was recommended by Sarah Mackenzie on Read Aloud Revival, and so it's kind of a race to get the copies from the library, and I think at some point I'm just going to need to buy our own copy. But because it's not Easter time when we're doing this study, then I didn't have to worry about it. But it's also it takes place in Russia, and about a babushka, and she does the Russian painted eggs that are gorgeous. But yeah, it's about Rechenka as the goose. And I don't want to give away all the story, so you'll just have to go read it. But it's fun pictures. It's Patricia Polacco. She does some wonderful work. So really, her books can be a little long, and you definitely want to look at some of them. Might be a little old for preschoolers, just the content of them. But this one, the content is fine, and it's one of her shorter ones, I believe. So we really enjoyed this one, Rechenka's Eggs. This is the Firebird. This one is by Demi. I've read a lot of her biographies, actually. She does biographies, like she has Muhammad and Jesus and Mary, and I think the Buddha. But her illustrations are just gorgeous. These are, I don't know if you can tell, but it's actually metallic. Like it's shiny gold. And this is a traditional Russian fairy tale. And there's a ballet based on it. So yeah, this was a fun read. We also have, and I don't have it in here either, a Russian fairy tale book that my sister got for my daughter when she came back from Russia. And this, I think, is also in there, but I chose the picture book version. The other one doesn't have as many pictures. But she actually loves that storybook and has read several of the stories over and over again. So I'll see if I can link to that in my resources as well. We did this during our geography time, and then later in the week, we made Russian blinis, which are basically like crepes. And I made the blinis. I made blinis, and we put jelly and fresh whipped cream inside, and they were so good. So good. And we ate those while we watched a video of the Nutcracker Ballet, because it is close to Christmas. When we did this, I'm actually filming it a little later, but it was close to Christmas. And it just seemed appropriate to do the Nutcracker, the Tchaikovsky classic, watch that while eating blinis. And that is actually how we finished up our European study. I, on a side note, do not have an animal because we are getting close to Christmas and I still want to do Antarctica, and we just didn't get to it for Europe, unfortunately. I think we ended up taking out some books on caribou, on reindeer, but we just did not get to it. So, life happens. I'm throwing in a bonus book here. We did not do this during our geography time because we study Italian as our language, and I did it during Italian time, and then I forgot to put the flag in the passport, so you might notice there was not an Italian flag in our passport. But this is Gabriella's song, and it's about a girl in Venice and music. And yeah, so it goes through Venice. So if you're going to do Italy, this is a good option. It does go through some of the things in Venice, but it's much more of a story, and I like that. And it's got, you kind of get a visual of Venice. So that is the bonus book for you of one we did not actually do during our geography time, but can definitely be incorporated into the European study. So those are, I believe, all the resources I have for Europe. I hope you enjoyed this, and please click the like button below to let me know that you watched and enjoyed it, and subscribe to see more. Talk to you later.